today we are going to discuss about the declarative agents with VS Code and M365 Copilot. So before we get into this session, we need to understand what is an agent and how it is capable for automating the task and what is M365 and how we can use different agents with M365. So as you know, agents are today uh, we use for different purposes for executing some task using the generative AI models or automating some workflows using the generative AI capabilities. The M365 Copilot is an interface or a user interface that helps the end users to interact with the various agents provided by Microsoft or third parties or your own custom agents. So you will be able to use various agents within the M365 Copilot. If you have not yet used the M365 Copilot, you can just log into m365.cloud.microsoft/chat, which gives you the M365 Copilot interface. For using this, you should have the M365 account or M365 subscription. So anyone who is having the M365 subscription will get the M365 Copilot chat for free. So this is the chat interface you are getting. Sorry. But if you need the M365 Copilot, not the just a chat interface, then you need to pay for additional subscription, which is the M365 Copilot subscription. But here you can see I'm using the M365 Copilot chat, which is a free feature or free functionality available with your M365 account. So on the left side, you will be able to see various options. And here you have an option for creating a new agent, or you can add existing agents. You can see these all agents provided by Microsoft or from third parties. And you can create your own agents. Means if you have created some agents on your own, you can add those agents also here. But the question is how you will create the agent. What are the different options we have for creating an agent? Because we know agents are used to execute some task. But yes, how I can go and create an agent? Do I need to know Python or any other programming language to implement these agents? So today we are going to see the answer for all this, how to go and extend the capabilities of M365 Copilot with custom declarative agents. So this is the agenda, the overview of M365 Copilot extensibility, understanding declarative agents and project structure, building and testing agents in VS Code, and deployment considerations and real-world use cases. So let's first understand about the M365 Copilot extensibility. So Copilot is Microsoft's user interface for interacting with various agents. So if you are an M365 user, you will be able to log into the M365 Copilot chat, the page which I have showed to you, and you can start interacting with various pre-built agents or third-party agents or your own custom agents. It uses the Microsoft Graph to connect with the various enterprise solutions for authentication, for accessing the Microsoft solutions, like if you want to connect with the OneDrive, uh, or you have to connect with the SharePoint or Teams or the M365 libraries. So for every Microsoft platform communications, it uses the Microsoft Graph. We use different kinds of agents inside this Copilot. Maybe we have to connect to the Teams application and schedule a meeting, or we have to summarize and create the action notes from an existing meeting, or I have to connect with Outlook and draft an email, or I have to generate some responses based on the documents located in the OneDrive or SharePoint. So for all these, we create agents. So Copilot is providing a general chat interface, but for executing some specific purposes, we have to create our own agents. What are the purposes? Extend the knowledge. So we may have to connect with the third-party systems or the M365 services and get some data from there and give it back to the user. So means when the user asks any question related to your enterprise platforms, the agent should have, or agents need to go and access this data, generate some informations and give it back to the user. Or we can automate some workflows, run multi-step processes across M365 and external applications. Means we will automate some process, means a ticketing application or meeting summarization or sending notification mails. So these all we have to automate. In that cases, we can use the Copilot agents. And we are able to use agents within our M365 applications like the Outlook, Word, Excel, SharePoint, etc. Means within your M365 applications, you can use the Copilot agents to execute some specific task. But the agents which are available today in Copilot, they are mostly generic. They are not specifically designed for any purpose. But what if I need to go and create some agents that can perform some specific operations? When you look at the agent, agents will have instructions, because every agent that you create should have some instructions, because agents are working based on the instructions given to that. Because some agents are used for retrieving the data from the OneDrive documents, or some agents are used for summarizing the meeting notes. In that cases, we have to give the instruction that how it has to work. What are the different services it has to use? What is the output format? Okay, in which format it has to give the response. So these all we will specify in the custom instructions. Custom knowledge is used to connect external systems or external data to your agents. For example, a very simple real life use case, if I say, suppose you are an employee in an organization and you have this employee policy document with you, which contains the salary policy, reimbursement policy, leave policy, then in devices or network policy. There are different policy informations written inside the policy document. But assume that suppose you are going outside of your city for a client meeting and you have spent some money from your pocket, but you have to claim that amount. Means you have to get the reimbursement for that money that you have spent. But the question is, you are not clear about the policy, like how much I can claim, which of the bills I can claim. So usually what you do, you will write a mail to your HR team that I have spent this much from my pocket, and these are the expense categories. So what is the maximum amount I can claim, and so and so. But the HR people may not be free, and you will not get immediate response. So employees has complained that, okay, whenever we write a mail to the HR team asking for the policy data information, they are responding very late. Maybe we are getting responses after a few days only. So company has decided, okay, to solve this problem or to remove the delay, we can implement a chatbot in the employee portal website. So whenever you have a question related to the policies, you can ask the question to the chatbot, and the chatbot will give you the answer. But we want our chatbot to generate the answers based on the policy document of the company, which is located maybe in a OneDrive location. So we want the agent to connect to that OneDrive, or chatbot to connect to that OneDrive and read the PDF document and then answer the user's questions based on the information written in the PDF. So here the PDF is an external knowledge. So in the every agent is using some LLM, large language model. So these policy informations are not there in the model's memory. It's not a pre-trained knowledge. So what we are planning to do, we are planning to attach the information from the PDF to the agents. So that's called the custom knowledge. So what is the benefit? Whenever the user asks a question, the agent is able to go and generate the responses based on the PDF document. So we have to connect, or in the agents, we have to connect to the custom knowledge. And we also can use custom actions. Means suppose if the agents are used for executing some task, maybe I have to connect to a database and update the database information, or I have to uh, send a mail notification to the user. So for all these, we have to have a action. So actions are very simple functions. But how I can create these agents? Do I need to create everything on my own? Not necessary. Microsoft is providing the user experience, that is the Copilot chat window or Teams app, or the applications like a Word, Excel, PowerPoint, where you can see the Copilot already. But what you need to do is you have to create an agent, because the user interface is already there. Means you can see, in my case also, I have this Copilot chat window available. This is my Copilot chat window. What I need is an agent that can be used to perform that operation. Maybe sending the mail or updating the database or fetching the data from OneDrive documents, etc. Now the question is how I can create that, how the Copilot is going to execute these agents. For that, it requires an orchestrator. It is the engine deciding which knowledge or actions to be performed. So whenever you request an agent to do something, the orchestrator is deciding which action to execute or which information to return. And every agent will have some large language models. So Copilot will be providing a set of GPT models, which is used as the brain or reasoning engine for your agents. Here you can see we have the GPT models. Okay, so you can select the appropriate LLM. So depends on your task complexity, you can select the mode like auto, quick response, or think deeper. So it depends on that. The orchestrator will select the appropriate model. So you don't need to worry about selecting a particular model. So it will automatically select the model. Means suppose if your query is very complex, which requires more thinking, then you can select the complexity as think deeper. So now if you ask any questions, it will use deep thinking or deep reasoning models to execute that query. So the user interface, models, and the orchestrator, everything is provided by Microsoft. Now what is remaining is the agents. So declarative agents or custom engine agents. So what is the difference in a declarative agent or custom engine agent? So if you look at the M365 Copilot, it has its own model. So the Copilot chat window, it has its own orchestrator, it has its own set of models, it has its own user interface. So everything is already there. So now the missing part is the agent. So when you create a declarative agent, it is going to use the same model and orchestrator of your Copilot. But a custom engine agent is an independent application itself. Means it is not integrated or it is not part of your Copilot, which means your agent will use its own model, its own orchestration engine. That's a custom engine agent. So creating a custom engine agent is little complex because it is mainly used for executing some complex workflows. So developers can use various tools to create custom engine agents. So this custom engine agents can be created using Copilot Studio or VS Code or Visual Studio with Python or some other languages, or you can use the Microsoft Foundry. So when you create a custom engine agent, you can use the user interface of Copilot, but when you make a request, the execution happens in a different location because you are not using the Copilot's LLM or orchestrator. So when custom engine agents execute, the request will be executed in a different orchestrator, different model. But in declarative agents, it do not use a separate orchestrator or separate LLM. It is executing within the Copilot itself. That's a benefits. So this is mainly used for creating simple agents. Means if you don't have very complex agents workflows, then you can go with the declarative agents. Declarative agents are best suitable when Copilot orchestration and models are good enough. Means if you don't need a separate orchestrator and separate model, if the Copilot's model and orchestrator is enough, then you can go for the declarative agents. Okay. So what is the benefit? It use the security and compliance of your Copilot itself. Separately, you don't need to implement it. Whenever you need a fast implementation, then also you can go for declarative agent because it's very easy to create. But in custom engine agents, you have to write the code or you have to build your own environment. Okay. So if you want to quickly create an agent, then it's better to go with the declarative agent. You have options like a no code with the agent builder, which means either you can create the declarative agent without writing a single line of code using the agent builder. What is this agent builder? It is part of your Copilot, Copilot chat interface only. Second option is pro code, which means you can write the code. Okay, maybe JSON or YAML or JavaScript code you can write to create this agents. So declarative agents can be created with the code and without code. So without code means what you need to do, you just need to go to the M365 Copilot chat interface. Left side, you will see the new agent. Just click here. So it will take you to a user interface. Click on the skip option here. And here you can specify your agent's name. For example, this is my test agent. And you can describe the agents. Means what is the agent? So this is a test agent. And I said every agent will have some description. So, sorry, instruction. That instruction you can provide here. Like you are a helpful agent that answers user questions. And you can write a very lengthy instruction here. Plus, you can add your custom knowledge here, means some website URLs you can specify, or web search functionality. Can you see search all website? You can enable web search functionality or capability for creating the documents, charts, and code. Code means code interpreter. You can attach. Image creation capability you can add. Some suggested prompt, which means some conversation starter. For example, sample query and say, tell me a joke. Okay, so like this, you can simply create your agent and just click on this create. That's it. You have done or you have created a declarative agent. Click on start chat and you can see here my test agent is available here. You can simply ask, can you see the conversation starter is listing here? Sample query, click on this. It comes, the prompt comes there and make a request. That's it. Okay. So you are able to create declarative agents without writing any single line of code. But it is also possible to create the declarative agents by code. Code in the sense, not the program code. You can use the configuration files like a JSON, YAML, and a bit of code, a little, maybe some piece of code also you can use. So that for that you will be using the agents toolkit. And now we are going to discuss about that. Okay, so we can create a declarative agents when you want a faster implementation with or without code. And if you are already inside the M365 apps like a SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams, then declarative agents are very easy. Custom engine agents we typically use for very complex operations, and you want use a separate orchestrator and model for executing the task. So I don't want the Copilot's Copilot's model and orchestrator. I can use a separate one. So in that case, the agent will be running outside the M365. The reason, because it is not using the M365 Copilot's model and the orchestrator. It's hosted somewhere, means it is deployed somewhere, and it is executing outside the M365. So the three questions before you write any code, like that is, do you know the specific subject or task we want to optimize for? So you should have a clear understanding what you are going to implement with the agent. So here a simple an example, like, okay, employee IT support self-service agent we have to create. Second is orchestrator and model. So do we need a custom orchestration or a different model? So if you need a custom orchestration or a different model, then we have to go for custom engine agents. But if you can use the Copilot's LLMs and orchestrator, then we can go with the declarative agent. Data sources. Do we know the authoritative sources and are they reachable? So whether you are able to connect that data to your declarative agents. Otherwise, by code, we have to connect them using custom engine agents. So if you look at the three yes or no questions, all pointing the same way, declarative agent is the right tool. So if you are saying, okay, we want to create a very simple agent without using the custom models or orchestrators, then I can use the declarative agent. Usually when you send a query to the Copilot, what happens? Or you are sending something to an agent. That input will be submitted to the agent. Then agent will check your prompt for any vulnerabilities, whether it contains any sensitive data, whether it contains any harmful content, or whether it contains any injection attacks. So it is going to check for the responsible AI. Means the security, privacy, all will be checked in the preliminary check. Suppose if it is identifying your content is safe, then it goes to the reasoning section. Here, the Copilot is preparing a plan with the agent, like what is to be executed or what are the operations to execute, from where to get the data. So these all will be planned in the reasoning phase. And this is the very important phase because the reasoning model, if it is not a good model, your planning will go wrong. Okay, so you have to select a very good model. Okay, in Copilot case, you don't need to worry. The Copilot always use the best reasoning models from GPT. So in a reasoning stage, the Copilot is preparing a plan how to execute the agent. What are the different tools we have to execute, okay, for completing the user request. Then the orchestrator compiles everything gathered and passes it into model. So it is sending that request to the model, and the model is generating the final answer. Means it execute and generate the final response. that response is sent back to the user. Okay, so whenever you interact with an agent, you send a prompt. The prompt will be verified for the vulnerabilities and security privacy. If it is safe and secure, then it is sent to the next stage, that is the reasoning, where it prepares a plan for execution. Once the plan is ready, then it is executed by the model, and the model returns a final output back to the user. As I mentioned, you have different ways to create the agents. One is agent builder, which I have showed you that you can go to the M365 Copilot chat and simply provide the name, description, instructions, and a data source. That's it. There is no complexity in that. And when you create this agent, agent will be available directly within your Copilot environment. Okay. So this is mainly used by business makers for creating quick proof of concept. It means if you want to showcase, okay, this is a simple way to create an agent, you can use the agent builder. Another option for creating the agents, declarative agents, is the Copilot Studio. Means if you have to create the agents that can be deployed into M365, okay, and you have to integrate external applications and services, means using the connectors you want to connect it, maybe hundreds of external applications, or defining the custom actions, you can use the Copilot Studio. So Copilot Studio is also a low-code option, which is a SaaS platform, which means software as a service platform, which gives you a user interface similar to the agent builder. So I can show you that also. For that, you have to have a subscription separately. Copilotstudio.microsoft.com is the URL. You can log in with your subscription. Okay, so this is the Copilot Studio, and you will be able to create your agent. For example, if this is an HR agent, which I have created, you can see here is the agent name, agent description, then the model, the agent instructions. Then you can have the custom knowledge that you want to add, custom actions, that is tools, then sub agents, means you want to connect with other agents, agent to agent communications. You can connect with other agents, topics for specific conversations. Okay, like this Copilot Studio will help you to create very complex agents without writing a single line of code. So because this is completely UI based configuration, you don't need to write any single line of code for Copilot Studio as well. So in Agent Builder, this is the Agent Builder. Here you can see. So Agent Builder and Copilot Studio both are low code, no code options. But we have a third option, which is Agents Toolkit, which is the Agents Toolkit, which is a pro code option, means using the VS Code and the SDK, you are able to develop agents. Sorry. So the declarative agents can be created using VS Code and the Agents Toolkit SDK. So you can customize all these configurations, what you see in Agent Builder or Copilot Studio, within VS Code. Okay, so you will be able to configure the knowledge, actions, schema, everything you can specify. So today I'm going to discuss about this option, Agents Toolkit. For creating a declarative agent using the Agents Toolkit inside your VS Code, so this is the VS Code environment. Within this VS Code environment, you have to install an extension called M365 uh, Agents Toolkit. So you can simply search here for M365 Copilot Agents. This one. In my system, VS Code, it's already installed, so I don't need to reinstall this. But if you are planning to use this, you can install this extension. Once this is installed, it appears here and you can create the projects. So you can create a new agent here. Here is an option for creating a new agent. Just click here and you can see the options here for creating a declarative agent, custom engine agent. So both are available here. So do you want to create a declarative agent or do you want to create a custom engine agent? So suppose if I have to create a declarative agent, just select it. And then what is the option? Whether you want to create an agent without any actions or add a simple action or use a Copilot connector or some type spec for the M365 Copilot. Means different templates available, pre-created templates. So I selected the last one. And where you want the project to be stored. So I can go and create inside this folder. Maybe I can, okay, inside this folder, I'm selecting this. And what is the project name? So here, suppose if I have to create one agent, a very simple agent, maybe HR policy agent. So you can give a name for your agent, press enter, and you can see it has created this agent here. So that template creates a set of files and folders. So these files and folders are used to create the agents. In this folder, you can see there is a folder called app package. And this is a very, very important file. Okay. Here, so you can see manifest.json, then declarative agent. Okay, I think declarative agent is not here. It's not created. Okay, I'll show you the existing one. So here you can see the declarative agent.json, and there is an instruction.txt, and there is a manifest.json. And there are two PNG files, color.png and outline.png. png. So there are multiple files inside it, that is color.png, outline.png, manifest, and declarative agents. So these are the main files which are created when you create an M365 declarative agent. The manifest file, it describes how the app integrates with a M365 and which capabilities it declares, including that it contains a declarative agent. So what are the different capabilities the agent has, and the common features? Manifest is basically the common informations about this agent is coming here. If you look at this, you can see the name, website URL, privacy URL, terms, icon, then this the short name and full name, description. Okay, the declarative agents, that agent's name itself is coming here, right? So what is the manifest contains? It contains the information about the agent. Declarative agent.json. So this can contain informations like what is the name of your agent, description, instructions, capabilities, conversation starters, and actions. So name is simple. What is the name of your agent? Description is a short description about your agent. Instructions are the agent instructions, which comes from the instruction.txt file. That is this one. So here is the instruction. Okay, you can modify this file, not a problem. This is your agent instruction. So it will read the information from that file. Then capabilities says that what are the different features the agent has, whether it has a web search functionality, web search capability, whether it has a code interpreter capability, whether it has an image generation capability. So these capabilities of this agent we will define inside the capabilities. Conversation starters are used to provide simple pre-built prompt which the user can use, like here suggested prompt. Like, so when you create a agent, you can see in my test agent here sample query. This is the conversation starter. You can just click here and then start sending the request. That's it. You don't need to type the prompt. So this is the conversation starter. So these conversation starter prompts you can add. Plus you can define the actions, means what are the different API actions that the agents can perform, means connecting to some database or external networks or performing some data related operations. So these all comes under the declarative agent.json, which specify the name, description, which contains the name, description, instructions, capabilities, conversation starters, actions. Okay. So here, let me create a new one. Usually it should declarative agent. This should be. Usually it should create that. There is the folder selection. So why that file is not coming? Does it have any issue? A declarative agent file is not getting created. Okay. Let me create the default template. Okay, so here you can see this is the default template. So here you can see the files that are created. We have the declarative agent.json and there is a instruction.txt, then manifest, then two PNG files. So the declarative agent by default contains only this much. Okay, so here the name of the agent, you can provide whatever name you prefer. For example, this is Synergetics app agent. I'm just giving a name and a description you can give. An agent that can answers the queries of the Synergetics employees. Okay, so this is okay. I'm just giving only this much. So this is the basic information, and you can also modify your manifest file if you want to update the developer name. Okay, suppose if I have to add my name or maybe company name, I can put. Okay, and then we can update the URLs also that I am not doing. Okay, so these informations here also you can provide the name, full name, and a short name. So here I can simply give, and here also I'm giving the same description also you can provide. So short description and full description you can give. Okay, I'm not giving separate value, same value only I'm giving. So this manifest file also you can update. So this is the instruction. Instruction is very simple, that you are a declarative agent created with the M365 agents toolkit. Okay, and what you have to do, and that you can simply modify. You are a helpful agent that answer users query. Start every conversation with a greet message. Welcome to Synergetics word or synergetics. That's it. So like this, some instructions you can provide to your agent. So that up to you how you write this instruction. Once you write this instruction, you have to just provision, click on this provision to build this. Means provision means you are compiling and building this agent. So you can click on this. Okay, it's done. Then I can open this in Copilot Studio or sorry, Copilot. Just run this. It is directly went to the other account. Okay, authenticated. Okay, can you see on the left side? It's now showing the Synergetics agent. Okay, and here you can see created by Synergetics India Private Limited and so and so. So now I can say hi, something I'm just giving. Can you see it's giving a greeting, welcome to Synergetics. Okay, and then just giving. So this is the agent, the very basic agent that is created. So this is a declarative agent that I have created. So which is having only these four or five files, right? The color and outline.png, declarative agent, manifest.json, and instruction. So I have just modified these files and the declarative agent to define my agent. This is a very basic step that you have to do. So here, when you create your agent, your toolkit is automatically creating this project structure. As you can see, there is an app package. Inside the app package only, you will have this files. So these are additional files which you can create, depends on your template. And there will be environment variables folder, okay, env, and then .vs code and the M365 agents.yaml or previously teams app.yaml. Okay, that any one of that, either M365 agents.yaml, okay, or teams app.yml. So here you can see M365 agents.yaml is there. So this is containing how to build and deploy to M365. You can see this is showing how to build and deploy to uh, the M365 application. So manifest is basically contain the ID, file informations, and other configurations of your agent. And the declarative agent YAML, declarative agent.json file contains the version, name, description, instructions, and you can explicitly add the capabilities, okay, or conversation starters and actions. Capabilities means what are the grounding sources you are configuring, which means the agents can use which of the features to generate the informations. Okay. For example, Let me check. Yeah. Okay. Now let's start with the instructions itself. So this instructions basically contains the agent's capabilities, like what this agent is supposed to do. Because when you give an instruction to the agent, we need to specify what the agent needs to do, what it should not do. Okay, that will be part of your instruction. Tone and persona. How the agent needs to respond to the user queries. What should be the tone need to use in the response? What should be the response style? That you can specify. That is a tone and persona you can specify. Information sources. So you can instruct the agent which sources should it prefer to generate the responses. Okay, so whether to use the pre-trained knowledge or to generate the information from the custom knowledge sources. So from where the information needs to generate. So that instruction you can give. And fallback means what should it do when it cannot find an answer. So you have to clearly say that suppose if the agent is unable to give an answer, what it has to do. So that fallback information also you have to specify. So you can specify the task definitions, content restrictions, and the formatting rules also. Inside the instruction, as you see here, as I said, you can specify what is the role of your agent and what the agents should do. For example, you can say answer the user questions based on the knowledge configured. Okay. Do not answer any questions using pre-trained knowledge. So do not use pre-trained knowledge to answer. Okay. Then I can give a fallback like if you don't know the answer, then simply respond as I cannot help you on this now. Try later, something like that. So this is a fallback. Fallback means what? Suppose if the agent is unable to give a proper answer, then what is supposed to be returned? I cannot help you on this now. Try later. And here I am giving a restriction that do not use the pre-trained knowledge. Answer all the user questions based on the knowledge configured. Okay. So this is how we define the instructions, and we can also specify the tone and style, like answer all questions uh, in a professional tone. Okay, like this, the tone, persona, style, everything can be defined inside the instruction.txt. So that's what the instruction contains. Grounding, that is inside your agent, we will have the capabilities, right? So these capabilities, we can define what are the different grounding sources it can use. It may use web search, it may use OneDrive and SharePoint, graph connectors, Dataverse, Teams messages, people, etc. For example, if the agent can search on internet and answer, then I can go to the declarative agent, add an additional section like capabilities. This is an array. Then you can specify conversation starters. This is an array. Plus you can add a actions. This is also an array. So here inside this you will be able to specify some more informations. Okay, for example, inside the capabilities, I can specify like name. Like suppose if I have to use a web search. If I have to use a web search, I can specify the web search as the capability name. This one. Okay. Suppose if I have to add a OneDrive and SharePoint, then I can use name OneDrive and SharePoint. Or if I have to specify some other, maybe code interpreter. Like this, I can specify the capabilities of this. But I cannot configure the OneDrive and SharePoint at this time because this will work only if you have a licensed M365 Copilot. But I have only free M365 Copilot chat. Okay, I don't have the licensed version of M365 Copilot. Okay, so this OneDrive and SharePoint connector or this capability will work only if you have a licensed M365 Copilot. But this code interpreter and a web search can work, no problem. Now, inside this conversation starter, you can specify some conversation starting messages. For example, title, I can say, tell me a joke. And what is the text? For example, tell me a joke about IT developers. Something. Or you can simply ask another question. Title is distance to moon. You say text. How far is moon from Earth? Okay. Actions at this time I'm not configuring, so I'll just leave this as empty. So now you can see I have some capabilities configured and the conversation starters added. Now let me build this agent. For that I can provision this title. Title should be there. The title only. New title must have a higher version than it. Let me rebuild. What about title is not accepting? this is still showing the previous one. Conversation starter is not added. Okay, let me remove this. I think this is not the problem. Somewhere else. Let's check. Usually, when you provide these capabilities, it should get added to the declarative agent. And once the build is succeeded without any error, you will be able to see that new modified agent inside your M365 Copilot chat. I think there is something wrong with the manifest. Okay, this one. Okay, I think it is compiled successfully. Then let's add the conversation starters also. Again, error. Okay, just a minute. Let me show you an existing one instead of wasting time. Here, so here is a declarative agent where you can see it is using some conversation starters you can see here, and some actions, means even we can add the capabilities also, but I have removed the capabilities for this example because inside this I am using something called the APIs. So what is this API? So typically when we want to execute some actions, maybe I have to fetch the data from, just a minute. Okay, so here the API actions are used to provide some tools or actions to your agents. For example, if your declarative agents wants to connect to some external services, maybe it has to connect to some database and fetch some data, or it has to connect to an external REST API services and fetch the informations. So such cases, we can use the API plugins. So API plugin is any REST API that you can deploy either as a Azure Function app or as a web app or anywhere, and you will be able to call that APIs from your declarative agents. So for that, what we need to do first is inside your declarative agents application, you should define this APIs. So for example, here you will be able to see under the SRC folder, we have some files. For example, there is a data.json. This is a mock example, which means a dummy example that is getting some data informations using an API. So we are not using any specific databases. Instead, we are using a simple JSON data. So here inside this JSON data, you can see some dishes information like dish name, the description, image URL, then other details like what type of course it is and type, all these information. I think you are able to see couple of dish names and their descriptions inside this. So you can consider this like a database. And here we have two Azure Functions APIs defined. So these Azure Functions are used as REST APIs here to get the data. So here this dishes function is used to fetch the data from the data.json and return to the user. Means whoever is invoking this API will get the dish information. So here is the API definition. It's a get method. Okay. And similarly, we have another method called orders. Means we can place the orders. Suppose if the user wants to place the order for a particular item, then he can place the order and uh, yeah, he can place the order by giving the order quantity and name. Okay. So these two actions we are providing for mock example. So one action for placing the order, second one is for returning the list of dishes. So suppose if we are deploying this as an API is somewhere, we should have the Swagger documentation for that API. So here inside the app package folder, you can see there is a restaurant.yml which defines the APIs for that. Here is the get and post actions for the slash dishes and slash orders. So slash dishes for returning the list of dishes and slash orders is for placing a new order. So this is the typical Swagger documentation which defines the API methods. So now inside your declarative agent, you have to configure this API. For that, we can create a file called AI plugin.json. Inside this, we need to define what are the functions used by this agent. So you can see the AI plugin.json is an additional file created. Inside this, there are two functions defined. Can you see get dishes and a place order? So get dishes are returning what type of data? Dish information. So the dishes information, which basically contains the name and a description. Okay, the output will display the name and description. Place order is typically used to return the order ID and the total price. Okay, so this method is used to place an order and it returns the response, returns the order ID and the total price. And here is the runtime. Runtime defines where this API is hosted. What are the functions available? So we can see this is the Swagger documentation URL, that is restaurant.yml, which defines the API and the methods like get dishes and place order. Now inside the declarative agent, we have to define the actions. So actions means here we have two methods defined. One is this get dishes, second is the place order. So these are the two actions or functions that can be used by the declarative agent. So here inside the declarative agent, you can see inside the actions we are specifying the ID of the action, means the plugin's name, and the plugin definition. Plugin definition means where these functions are defined. It is in the AI plugin.json. That is this. So these are the two methods. And these methods are coming from which Swagger? This Swagger. So inside this Swagger, it has the definition from where we can access this. Can you see here? This is the OpenAPI server URL. Okay, where this APIs are hosted. So in a production environment, we will deploy these functions in cloud and then define the URL here. But for this example, we are not using any cloud services. Instead of that, we run the Azure functions locally from our machine. But Copilot agents needs to connect to a public URL, not to the local URL. So this VS Code task is going to expose our local API as a public URL. That's what you can see here. This is the local URL. Okay, so you are exposing your locally running API with a public URL. So this is the URL. Okay. So inside the task, we can see there is a start local tunnel. So what this start local tunnel task is going to do, it will run your application locally, means your API functions locally, but it is going to expose your local functions using a public URL. So that is this public URL. Okay, so this is the basic URL that we get. Now, when I go and run this agent. So this is the agent. Let me first provision it, means we are building this. There is something wrong. Okay, there is a quota limit. Okay, no problem. So I will run it locally by using this. I'm start debugging. So I'm running this application. So it will locally run those APIs, but our Copilot is going to connect to this APIs using the tunnel URL. You can see it's now running. Okay, you can see here the two APIs are now running locally. Okay, you can using the local host, but our agent is going to access using a public URL. What's the name of this agent I have given? This is the. So here you can see that conversation starters. What for lunch today, and what can I order for dinner that is gluten free? So if you look at the conversation starters, these are the two conversation starters that is appearing. If I click on this, let's make a request. Can you see it is connecting to that restaurant and showing that details? These are the items that is coming. Spaghetti, grilled chicken. Okay, this is coming from that data.json. So this is for breakfast, right? So what we have asked for lunch. So what are the items for lunch, breakfast? Yeah, yeah. This one, and this is also for lunch, and this is also for lunch. Okay, and drinks. You can see this is also for lunch, but this is a drink type, not a dish. Okay, this is also for lunch, and this is a drink. So in our response, you are able to see that as a drinks has a separate category and the dishes has separate category. Suppose if I have to order to let's try. Okay, can you see it is invoking that method by creating the request? Can you see this is 2 quantity and iced tea is 1 quantity. Confirm. Can you see your order for this? The order details, order ID, status, and the total amount. You can see it is now executing that place order method, and it is showing the final response. So this is just a mock example. You can see we are able to retrieve the data from the database, and we are able to update the data in the database, right? So this is what the declarative agent. So inside the declarative agent, you will be able to define the actions which helps us to connect to the external data sources like APIs or file systems. Or if you want to configure your grounding data sources, you should be able to configure the capabilities. So under this capabilities, you will be able to configure web search, OneDrive and SharePoint, graph connectors, Dataverse, Teams, messages, people, and etc. Okay. And conversation starters, as I said, you will be able to specify some pre-created prompt as the conversation starter. You just need to click and send the request without typing anything. So additional to the grounding data sources, you can also configure code interpreter and a graphic art. So code interpreter is a capability that is used to analyze the files using the Python code. Suppose if you have an Excel file, you have to analyze that Excel file by Python by using the Python code. Then you can use the code interpreter. So it will automatically generate the Python code for data analysis. So for example, suppose inside this itself, if I have to configure this capabilities, code interpreter, I can configure the code interpreter as a capability. Then rebuild and rerun. Suppose in this, if I have to upload an Excel file, maybe I have this one. Create a graph that shows the total number of customers based on the plan type. Let's see whether it will analyze. But in the instruction, if it is restricted to use any external tools, then it will not use. But you can see it is coding and executing. Can you see it's generate the Python code and it taking that Excel file that I have uploaded. Yes, you can see it is generating one graph. So this graph or chart is created because I have added one code interpreter capability, because it is capable for generating the Python code dynamically and do the data analysis and generate the responses. So that is the benefit of code interpreter. Okay, so this is a capability that I have added to my declarative agent. So similarly, you can also add other capabilities like name, web search. Okay, or which means any information that you want to get from internet, then this declarative agent can connect to the internet and get the data. That's it. So that's it in this session. So in this session, we have discussed about what is declarative agents, what are the different ways we can create a declarative agents like Agent Builder, Copilot Studio, and Agents Toolkit, M365 Agents Toolkit. And in M365 Agents Toolkit, how to create a declarative agent prompt, sorry, the template, and what are the different files involved in that, what is the importance of each file, and what are the capabilities and actions and conversation starters we can add into the agent, and how to run and test this agent. So we have used a simple mock API also to demonstrate the real world use case, like how an agent can connect to the API data and get the information. So in your case, if you have to create such uh, specific agents, when some use case specific agents, you can simply use the M365 agents toolkit for creating this declarative agents. But understand, if you are looking for a very complex agents and workflows, then it is recommended to use the custom engine agents. We use that it can be created using Foundry or Copilot Studio or the other frameworks. So that's it from my side.